Chapter 6. The rope binding Theo's wrists cut into his skin as they jerked him along. He toppled forward, fighting to maintain his balance so as not to do a faceplant on the ground. With every step Theo took, his fear of the unknown grew stronger. The ground changed from wet grass to hot sand under his shoes. Were they back in the desert where he had first met the Roush and Talia? The desert where all of this had begun? Maybe the Roush and Talia were here, ready to jump out and save Theo and Stokes from the clutches of the Shatakai. But where was Stokes? The small Roush, hitting the branch, played over in the darkness. Theo listened to see if he could distinguish Stokes's wobble from the shuffling of the Shatakai talons, but all he heard was the crackle of their chatter. With a jolt to the wrists, Theo's body lurched forward to a halt. The Shatakai stopped. The chatter quieted, replaced by a low hissing. Theo inhaled the scent of burning wood that overpowered the beast's stench. Something ripped the bag from his head. Theo blinked, adjusting his eyes to the blazing firelight. The shadows of hundreds of Shatakai lined the ledges of the cannon's towering wall, and he could see a bundle of white fur strung up on a pole. Stokes! The Roush's head hung down, his chest slowly lifting up and then falling, unconscious but still alive. Shax stood in front of Theo, a toothy grin plastered across his face. Next to Shax, a large, bulky Shatakai glared at Theo. Shax lifted his chin, staring up at the large Shatakai. My sire, I got him, Shax stammered. Yes, I see. The bigger one tilted his head, examining his captive with dark crimson eyes, revealing the long scar dug across its right eye. Theo cringed at the sight of the massive beast, especially the dried blood crusted on his snout. Its overwhelming odour, far worse than the others, dank, sour, pungent, filled Theo's nostrils, making him dizzy and lightheaded. Hello, Theo. The creature's gravelly voice rattled Theo's bones. I am Roush, and I've brought you here for a very special reason. Would you like to know what it is? Theo opened his mouth to speak, but what he wanted to say wouldn't come out. Answer me, please, the leader said. I asked if you would like to know why I brought you here. Shatakai are liars. I shouldn't trust you, Theo stammered. Is that what they told you? I'm the liar? Roush chuckled, and hundreds of Shatakai joined in, roaring with heckles and taunts. You see, my son, the truth is you've already been lied to. I only want to make sure that you get the truth. All of what the Roush have told you has been said for their own benefit, not yours. Have they told you about the monster? Monster? Theo squeaked. Elion, the cruel monster who promises them peace if they become his slaves and follow his commands, and if they don't, well then, they must suffer deeply for a very, very, very long time. A black fog seeped out of the beast's mouth as he spoke. The monster demands his slaves' perfect obedience. Escaping Elion's punishment is possible only if you believe and do his bidding. He is constantly disappointed by his children's actions, and you don't want to see him get angry. I wouldn't want to be in his line of fire when he blows up. Asher. It sounded as if Roush was describing Asher. Could Elion be like Asher? All Michael and Gabble had given him so far were riddles. The fog now poured out of the Shatakai's mouth, circling Theo. But Theo barely noticed, too distracted by Roush's words. Theo tried to focus on what the Roush had told him. The Shatakai deceive and trick. Michael and Gabble were his friends. They didn't say Elian was like that. They wouldn't. Ruza placed his black claw on Teo's cheek. They want you to follow him and become just as deceived as they are. Trust me, boy, they've been lying to you. I don't believe you. They're my friends. Friends? Who lied to you and brought you all this way to meet a monster they refused to tell you about? And what kind of friends gives you this pipsqueak of a protector? Don't believe him, Theo. Stokes lifted his head, but it fell back again. Pathetic. Do you want to know the truth, Theo? Trust me, I may look nasty, but I would never lie to you. A high-pitched whistle from Stokes echoed throughout the cavern. Silence the Roush, Ruza ordered. He calls for help. Shax rushed over to Stokes, slapped him across the face, and then gagged him with a piece of cloth. Don't hurt him, Theo snapped. Let us help you, boy, Ruse hissed. Breathe. Breathe in the knowledge held in the fog surrounding you. The knowledge of good and evil is your protector. Breathe and know who this Elion monster really is. No need to wait and see. You'll understand how evil their master is if you simply breathe. I don't know if... Trust me, Theo, knowing the truth is better than confusion. Don't you want to have this knowledge? Knowledge is power. Stokes shook his head as if begging Theo not to listen to Ruza. But what if Ruza was telling the truth? What if he had the answer to why Theo was really here? What if Ruza was saving him from the Elion monster? The choice is yours, Theo, but that choice must be made now. Either live in confusion and lies or breathe in the truth. Let all the answers come to you with one deep breath. Breathe, 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 breathe. The Shatakai filled the canyon with their voices and slapped their wings against the wall, shaking the very ground beneath Teo's feet. Breathe, 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 breathe. Theo studied the black fog swirling around him. The beatings of wings against the stone quickened his heart. This was wrong. He had to get far from here. But the Shatakai had defeated Michael, Gabble and Stokes. They were very strong, and Ruza seemed to know a lot of things that Theo didn't. He knew about the Elion monster. Maybe he knew how to defeat Asher too. So Theo breathed. Look. Oh dear, that's so disappointing, isn't it? The fog flowed through his nose, filled his lungs and consumed his whole body. Burning pain seared his eyes and his vision went dark. His arms and legs began to sting as if the fog flowed through his veins. Overcome with weakness, Theo dropped to the cavern floor. He barely heard Stokes' muffled screams in the background, begging for him to stop, over the Shatakai's shrieks as they danced in excitement on the top of the walls. Theo's sight returned and the pain vanished from his body. What had happened? You have inhaled a deeper knowledge of fear. This knowledge of good and evil has blinded you, and I will blind you over and over again, maggot. Maggot? That's what Asher called him back in the other world. Ruza chuckled as he lifted into the air. Shax poked Stokes' cheeks with a long, skinny finger. You basically handed him over to us. Thanks for your help. In a fit of rage, Stokes threw his head forward and banged it into Shax's forehead. Shax stumbled back and cried out in pain. Ouch! Shax, come, Ruza ordered from the air. Now, but can't I hurt him a little more? We've accomplished what was asked of us, Ruza snarled, flying from the canyon. Shax huffed and took to the air, following the beast. Till we meet again, you filthy Roush slave of Elion. The mass of Shatakai trailed after Shax, shrieking cheers of victory throughout the sky. Theo and Stokes were left alone in the canyon, Theo on the ground, too weak to stand, and Stokes tied to the post, gagged. For a long moment, Theo sat immobile, numbed by what had happened. There they are, a voice cried above them. Elion, help us. Theo watched with relief as Gabble and Michael landed on the ground. Gabble quickly unbound Stokes from the ropes and removed the gag from his mouth. He let in the black fog, Stokes cried out, hurrying over to where Michael lifted Theo into the wings of Gabble. The Shatakai just left. Michael gave Gabble a worried glance. He ingested the fog of deception and blindness. There is nothing we can do for him. We must get him to the lake as fast as possible. I tried to protect him. I'm so sorry, Stokes said as he helped Gabble hold Theo. It's okay, Stokes. Just help us get him to Elion. I'm so sorry. Enough, Michael snapped. We must hurry before he's lost altogether. Theo fought to keep his eyes open. He tried to speak to his rescuers but yawned instead, exhausted and weary. He couldn't stay awake any longer, so he let his eyes fall closed, drifting into the darkness. Chapter 7. A familiar aroma stirred Theo's senses, not the stench of the Shatakai or the sweetness of Rouge water. It was dusty and aged, like books. Theo's eyes shot open. He was back in the library, sitting in Mrs. Friend's room of books. He was back. He was home. What a dream. Or was it real? Theo started to get up, but pain coursed through his body. It was worse than the day after physical fitness test in gym class. The ancient book lay on the floor, open, bearing the stain of Theo's blood. He nudged the front of the book with his foot and lifted the cover. The book plopped shut, sending a small cloud of dust into the air. Somehow he felt better with it closed, and even better after he shoved it back onto one of the shelves. Releasing the book safe into its hold, he noticed his bare wrist. He quickly examined the other. Rope burn. The Shatakai. All of it. Real. He raced to the door, swung it open, and started down the stairs, but he pulled back when he saw Asher and his goons wandering through the library. They're here. How is that possible? He spun on his heels and dashed straight back up to the little room. He closed the door quietly behind him, and this time he locked it. He pushed the flat of his back against the door, slid down, and sat on the floor. He'd been in the other world for almost a whole day, maybe longer, but here, a minute, a blink of time had passed. He was back in the world of bullies, running away from Asher. But now he knew there was more to fear than Asher Brox, and he had come to face with one of them. He'd inhaled the black fog. He could almost feel it creeping up his arms. A shiver passed through him. His arms appeared normal, so that was good, right? But he had breathed it in. It was inside of him. It was a part of him, protecting him from the truth of the monster Elion. Thankfully, Elion didn't exist in this world, but Asher did. The doorknob jiggled. Theo backed away from the door. He'd start throwing books if he had to. Then the silence. He waited. He'd been through enough for 1 minute, day. The concept was unbelievable, but the rope burns were real. A knock startled him. Hello, Theo, it's Mrs. Friend. Are you okay in there? Theo unlocked the door, stepped out, and handed Mrs. Friend the key. The librarian placed the chain around her neck and, with a smile, pushed her thick rimmed glasses up on the bridge of her nose.